Welcome back. Let's continue with part 2. Together, leadership theories and styles. Leadership theories have evolved significantly over time as researchers have sought to understand what makes an effective leader. Early theories focused on the personal characteristics of leaders, while more recent approaches recognize that leadership effectiveness depends on behavior, organizational context, and the relationship between leaders and followers. Although no single leadership theory can be applied successfully in every situation, each provides valuable insights that help managers develop their own leadership approach. Trait theory of leadership. The trait theory is one of the earliest leadership theories and suggests that successful leaders possess specific personal qualities that distinguish them from others. Early researchers believed that effective leaders were born rather than made, and that leadership was largely determined by inherited characteristics. Common leadership traits include integrity, honesty, confidence, intelligence, emotional stability, determination, resilience, adaptability, communication skills, and the ability to inspire trust. These characteristics remain important in modern leadership because employees naturally place greater confidence in leaders who demonstrate competence, consistency, and ethical behavior. Although trait theory contributed significantly to leadership studies, modern researchers acknowledge that leadership can also be learned and developed through education, experience, mentoring, coaching, and continuous professional development. Today's organizations recognize that leadership is not reserved for a select few, but can be cultivated in individuals who are willing to learn and grow. Behavioral theory. Behavioral theory shifted attention away from personal characteristics and focused on what leaders actually do. Researchers argued that leadership effectiveness depends upon behaviors rather than inherited traits. This perspective suggests that successful leadership skills can be developed through practice, observation, education, and experience. Behavioral theory identifies two important dimensions of leadership behavior. The first focuses on task-oriented behavior, where leaders organize work, establish objectives, monitor performance, and ensure that organizational goals are achieved efficiently. The second emphasizes people-oriented behavior, where leaders support employees, encourage teamwork, build relationships, and create positive working environments. Highly effective leaders are able to balance both dimensions. They achieve organizational objectives while maintaining employee well-being, motivation, and job satisfaction. Situational leadership theory. Developed by Paul Hersey and Kenneth Blanchard, situational leadership theory proposes that there is no single best leadership style. Instead, effective leaders adjust their behavior according to the competence, confidence, experience, and commitment of their employees. New employees often require clear guidance, supervision, and frequent feedback while they develop confidence and competence. Experienced employees, however, benefit from greater autonomy and empowerment because they possess the knowledge and skills necessary to perform independently. Situational leaders, therefore, demonstrate flexibility by adapting their leadership style according to changing organizational circumstances rather than relying upon one fixed approach. Contingency theory. Contingency theory, introduced by Fred Fiedler, suggests that leadership effectiveness depends upon the interaction between the leader's style and the organizational environment. According to this theory, no leadership style is universally superior. Instead, success depends on selecting the most appropriate leadership approach for each specific situation. Several factors influence leadership effectiveness, including organizational culture, employee relationships, task complexity, available resources, time pressures, and the leader's level of authority. Managers who understand these variables are better positioned to select leadership strategies that maximize organizational performance. Contingency theory highlights the importance of adaptability and demonstrates that effective leadership requires both strategic thinking and practical judgment. Transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is regarded as one of the most influential leadership models in modern business administration. Developed by James McGregor Burns and later expanded by Bernard Bass, This theory focuses on inspiring employees to exceed expectations through vision, innovation, personal development, and organizational commitment. Transformational leaders communicate an inspiring vision of the future, encourage creativity, empower employees to solve problems independently, and recognize individual contributions. Rather than relying on authority alone, they motivate employees by building trust, encouraging collaboration, and supporting continuous learning. This leadership approach promotes innovation, employee engagement, organizational commitment, and long-term organizational success. Consequently, transformational leadership is widely adopted within business organizations, educational institutions, healthcare services, and public administration. Transactional leadership. Transactional leadership focuses primarily on organizational structure, performance standards, supervision, and measurable outcomes. Leaders establish clear expectations, allocate responsibilities, monitor performance, and reward employees who achieve agreed objectives. Employees understand precisely what is expected of them and receive recognition, financial incentives, promotions, or other rewards for successful performance. Conversely, poor performance may result in corrective action or additional supervision. Transactional leadership is particularly effective in highly regulated environments where consistency, compliance, quality assurance, and operational efficiency are essential. However, it may be less successful in organizations that depend upon creativity, innovation, and continuous change. Servant leadership. Servant leadership represents a people-centered philosophy in which leaders prioritize the needs of employees before their own interests. Introduced by Robert Greenleaf, this approach emphasizes humility, empathy, ethical behavior, active listening, and personal development. Servant leaders believe that by supporting employees, removing barriers, encouraging professional growth, and creating positive workplace cultures, organizational success naturally follows. Employees working under servant leaders frequently report higher job satisfaction, stronger organizational commitment, and greater trust in management. Healthcare organizations, educational institutions, and charitable organizations often adopt servant leadership because of its emphasis on compassion, collaboration, and service to others. Leadership styles. Leadership theories provide the conceptual framework for understanding leadership, while leadership styles describe how leaders behave when interacting with employees. The autocratic leadership style involves leaders making decisions independently, with little employee involvement. This approach may be appropriate during emergencies or crises where immediate action is required. However, excessive reliance on autocratic leadership may reduce employee morale and discourage innovation. The democratic leadership style encourages participation, collaboration, and shared decision-making. Employees are invited to contribute ideas and opinions before decisions are finalized. Democratic leadership strengthens teamwork, improves communication, increases job satisfaction, and promotes organizational commitment. The laissez-faire leadership style provides employees with substantial freedom to make decisions independently. This approach works best when employees possess extensive experience, technical expertise, and high levels of self-motivation. Without appropriate guidance, however, organizational objectives may become unclear. Modern organizations increasingly encourage leaders to combine elements from different leadership styles according to organizational needs rather than relying exclusively on one approach. Flexibility enables leaders to respond effectively to changing business environments while maintaining employee motivation and organizational performance. Summary of Part 2. Leadership theories and styles provide valuable guidance for understanding how leaders influence organizational success. Effective leaders recognize that different situations require different approaches and continuously adapt their leadership style to meet organizational objectives while supporting employee development. The ability to combine strategic thinking, emotional intelligence, ethical behavior, and flexibility distinguishes outstanding leaders from average managers and prepares organizations for sustainable long-term success. 2026 Mary Lourdes Banichi MBA. All rights reserved. This article is the intellectual property of Mary Lourdes Banichi and may not be reproduced, distributed, or published without permission. Thank you, and see you in part 2.